Yay! What is up, everybody? Welcome back. Oh my God. It's been weeks.
We had some cobwebs to shake out before we got going, so
Just
that's why we're a little late.
Just a few technical cobwebs. Also, I'm a little under the weather. My voice
We both are.
Whew, my voice is like dunzo. So I apologize in advance for the lack of romantic flavor in my voice tonight.
I think you have extra romantic
Is it extra?
flavor?
I don't know. Whatever.
My mom's watching this.
Hey. It's been weeks. We are finally back after a much-needed hiatus. We love just being able to take the holidays to just rest, relax, and kind of focus on the next year and get our priorities and goals in order and stuff like that. So finally, January 14th is right now, and we're back. Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, everybody. Tonight, we're joined by a local badass, a local beast. Also, Gus has chosen today and this moment to be crazy
Stir
again.
up trouble.
He's stirring up trouble. But our guest tonight is a local Pacific Northwest badass who just earned her very first golden ticket running Bandera 100k, finishing second in her first 100k. She's an incredible runner that does live up here in the Pacific Northwest and is just like, she's going to make some waves this year.
She already is.
Yeah, she already is. I'm very excited. We're going to be joined by Ladia Albertson-Junkans on tonight's episode. Very excited to talk to her all about her training, her history in running, leading up to Bandera, what it was like to race against Brittany and the other talented women at that field, because it's always a field that people love to go to earn their Western State spots. It's a golden ticket race and everything like that. So if you have questions during tonight's show, get them ready. It's going to be a good one. Oh, yeah, we have a new set. Welcome, everyone, to Ginger Runner Live. Episode number 242 begins now.
Ginger Runner.
Yes! What is up, everybody? Welcome to Ginger Runner Live, episode number 242.
We're up there.
Yeah, we're officially up there. As you can tell, a bit has changed on Ginger Runner Live. Our set has changed. We have a new set. We have new lighting.
Gus is growling,
we
and
have
we're
an
both
angry
sick.
dog. Some new intro graphics. We basically repolished this show entirely.
That's
it was
the first
about
time I've seen that.
Yeah, you haven't even seen it.
Yeah.
It was time. Gus is like, if you do not let me on your lap, it is over. Gus, I'm sorry, it is over. There's just no room for you to get up. It has been a number of weeks since we've done Ginger Runner Live, so we're a little rusty. There's some cobwebs, both literal and metaphorical, everywhere. So bear with us tonight as we get some of the technical things worked out. We have new graphics and new things happening all the time, so we like to make sure that they work properly beforehand. But tonight, some things may go off the rails, which is great. It's always good when things like that happen. Lot of show tonight. We have an incredible guest that will be joining us in just a second. Ladia Albertson-Junkans, who's a Pacific Northwest badass, just a beast of an ultra runner, just crushed the Bandera 100k, her first 100k, earning herself a spot into the Western States 100 by finishing second. Just insane. And if this is a sign of things to come, it's obvious that she's going to make a big splash in the ultra running world.
Mm-hmm.
She's been doing ultras now for a couple of years, so it's pretty cool to have her on the show tonight to talk all about her journey. But it's not just me. It's not just Ladia.
It's also me.
Yeah.
As always, you guys, I am in the chat room. We are live. If you guys have questions for our wonderful guests, please pop them into the chat room. I'm already seeing lots of regulars popping into the chat room and saying hi. And we have some familiar faces like Raul joining us again. I feel like it's been a long time since we've seen you. So welcome, everybody, old and new. We're super casual. Ask anything. As I said, we'll be pulling questions throughout the hour.
Super casual.
Super casual.
Super cash.
I'm
of
wearing
course,
like a sweatshirt.
And I'm wearing just like a shirt.
And that's it.
I would like to, of course, start this show by thanking some individuals who have supported us for a very long time, our Patreon supporters. We do not have the ability to do this show full time without their support. So for all of our Patreon supporters, our GR crew, as we like to call them, a big thank you. For those of you who are supporting, have supported, will be supporting, it is a wonderful thing to be able to do this full time. But from videos, reviews, live shows, everything right here at Ginger Runner. on the YouTube channel. 3 individuals in particular at that top tier just help everything happen, especially the set change. These 3 gentlemen were a huge part of making that happen with their monthly contributions. Brian Sands, an incredible guy, just human being, and ran his first, oh my gosh, I'm going to say last year, but it wasn't. Was it? Ran his first marathon in 2017.
Yep.
Time is moving forward, but ran his first ultra last year.
Yes.
Currently training for his first 50 miler coming up very, very soon. It's always awesome to be able to talk to that guy. He's been an incredible support for us for a long time and just one of the kindest humans. It's an incredible journey that will inspire everybody. Rick Bjarnason and his team at cheekymonkeymedia.ca. They're a team of incredible web designers. They do some insane websites, including the new gingerrunner.com website, which will be dropping within the month. Over the holidays, we got to just polish it up. It looks perfect. All we got to do is get the servers changed. That's it. So we're just waiting on some server access stuff, but they're incredibly talented. And Rick himself is an ultra runner and super talented. Can't wait to talk to him more about his upcoming year. And finally, Chris Lee from Hong Kong. He and his company Trailblazer showcase a lot of the incredible trails that Hong Kong has to offer. The Hong Kong 100 is actually coming up this coming weekend. It's like happening now. It's going to be coming up here just in a couple of days. Our good friend Dylan Bowman is there to race. A bunch of other friends are there to race. It's a badass race. And Chris Lee is kind of the local liaison. He knows all the trails and has an incredible community there. So big thank you to Chris Lee and the Trailblazer community. So that's it. Let's get into this. Our guest tonight just placed second at the Bandera 100k. Just an astounding effort. It's her first 100k, her 100k debut, but already making a huge splash. She earned herself a spot into the 2019 Western States 100. Without any further ado, Ladia Albertson-Junkans. Yay!
Hi.
How are you?
I'm great. How are you guys?
We're good.
We're good.
We're a little under the weather. I apologize for the
I know.
voice.
I'm sorry to hear that.
It's your
Also,
fault.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
Well, Caitlin actually ended up getting sick last night, and we ran together yesterday, so it might be my fault.
It
You never
might
know.
be. It
Yeah.
might be. Little tidbit for our guest tonight, because she is a Pacific Northwesterner. She trains in the Issy Alps, where we also train. Not all the time, but sometimes, right?
All the time.
All the time. This topographical map behind us, that's Cougar Mountain.
That is so cool. I was actually really hoping you were going to tell us more about that. So,
I wanted to wait to bring you on because
Okay.
well, first, you're local, you know all of the trails and stuff like that. But for Patreon supporters and stuff, I did a behind-the-scenes video, kind of a time-lapse of the creation of this. And it is, in fact, Cougar Mountain. It is the topographical map of that area, which Kim and I run in all the time. I know you run there all the time. The last time we saw you in person was racing the Cougar Mountain 20 miler there. Was that like your last kind of tune-up before Bandera?
Yeah, well, it was going to be my last tune-up before TNF 50 mile.
That's
Then when that got canceled, I guess it, by default, ended up being my last tune-up. Yep.
One thing about that day and that race in particular, it was really, I'm going to toot your horn for a second, because I think this is a really cool moment that I got to witness, a really cool Ladia moment. Ladia, you won, right? You essentially finished the first.
Yeah, well, there's an asterisk.
Yeah,
so.
there's an asterisk. But Ladia finished first. There was a bit of course vandalizing that caused some runners to go off course. They fixed it immediately. Ladia was one of the first to actually notice it, because when she got to the finish line, she's like, I don't think we finished the way we were supposed to. This is a testament to the character. You went back out. You re-ran the route down to where you went off course, which was miles, and then finished the course in the regular route. And did you still win?
I don't actually know, really. But actually, so we ran back and we fixed the 2 junctions where the vandalism had happened. Someone went really out of their way to change the course markings, essentially.
Yeah, it was like a blatant, let me take this sign from here and go put it at this other, like it was pretty blatant.
And then let me take 10 more signs and put them over here as well, so that you really have no indication that it's the wrong way. Yeah.
It was really neat to see someone who could have easily just said, I'm done for the day.
Mm-hmm.
I ran my 20 miles. Ugh, that sucks that I missed the course. Don't give me an official finish or whatever. But rather, you went back out, you fixed the course, you helped those who were running behind you to also finish, and then you also finished the race. I don't know. In today's day where you keep reading headlines of like people are cheating and all that sort of thing, you made a really cool statement just by just your love of the race and the trails and that sort of thing, and it was a really neat moment. So thank you on behalf of the trail running community.
Well, thank you. No, that's very kind. And I would like to say too that Rob, who was the top male, he ran back with me and
Yes.
helped fix the course. And unfortunately, I mean, we had hoped that we would intersect everyone behind us, but there were a lot of other speedsters who were not that far behind us, and we didn't get back to the junction before they passed. So as you know, they got stuck in kind of an infinity loop and actually added on maybe 8 to 10 extra miles on a really cold day that was getting colder as the day went on, and actually ended up being almost a little bit dangerous for a couple of them. Like one of them, Danny, our friend, almost seemed like he was in the early stages of hypothermia by the time he got back, just because he had been out there so much longer than he expected. And so that's kind of, just in addition to sort of ruining the race experience for people, the vandalism also can really be a risk, a safety risk. So yeah, hopefully we don't encounter that again anytime soon. It was a bummer.
No kidding. It is a bummer when that stuff happens, because you got to wonder like what goes through. In my mind, I was going, it's just some kid. It's just some kid that comes out here and is like, oh, look at these flags, I'm going to change it. But then someone kind of brought it to, I don't know if it was you that was saying it, but it was like, actually, I don't think it's a kid. I think because of the blatant like remarking of the new trail,
and at that time of day,
no, it was a full-on adult that was just angry there was a race going on or something, and I was like, man, what goes through people's heads? It's a safety issue for sure.
Yeah,
it's a bummer.
It was a great day anyway.
Totally. Yeah. It was great to see friends, and that community is fantastic. And of course, that race is always really well put on. Northwest Trail Runs does a great job at that. But it was just something I noticed, and I just wanted to commend you on it. It was a really cool thing to see. So thank you. We have, of course, an incredible live audience, and if you guys have any questions and stuff like that for Ladia during tonight's conversation, please don't hesitate to drop in the chat room. What's going on in there right now, Kim? Is there action? I see lots of movement, a lot of viewers. People are excited to be back.
There's some action. Yeah, everybody's kind of saying hello to each other. Our community, as you just mentioned, is really awesome, and they haven't had their chat room for a few weeks, so everybody's eager to get back and chatting with each other here.
Sweet. So, Ladia, I kind of want to go back a little bit before Bandera, talk to you just kind of about your running journey, because while this may be the first couple of years of your ultra adventure, you are by no means new to running at all. What got you into running? At what age were you really getting into it? And was it something that you knew you were going to be competitive in for a long time? Let's start there.
Yeah. Well, I got into cross country running because I didn't make a soccer team back in 9th grade. And
that's the same thing. Keep going. Sorry.
I mean,
okay?
it's the perfect way to get into the sport, I think, because I spent most of my younger years in childhood playing team sports, soccer and basketball, and not really knowing that running was the reason that I was semi-okay at those ball sports, even though I really wasn't good at handling a soccer ball or a basketball. And so fell in love with cross country the first time that I did it, and just kept going from there.
Was it something where, was it the distance, the challenge of going further and further that was intriguing to you? Was it the speed? Was it, we've talked to a lot of elite athletes on the show who, when you're dealing with cross country and collegiate distance running, you have a focus. You have an 800 meter or 5,000 meter, 10,000 meter. That kind of is your focus for so much of your life, that when you even start thinking longer distance, it's like, why would I run a half marathon? Like a 10K is it. So for you, was there a focus, or were you drawn to the longer and longer distances?
I think I was just drawn to the activity of running, to be honest. I had always, what I loved about soccer was that I could just run all game, every game. I was the kid on the team that didn't need a sub. which is really helpful for every team to have a couple of those. I avoided the ball at all costs, but I was at least a body on the field. And I usually was more into the defense than the offense, again, because I didn't like actually handling the ball. And so I think once I opened myself up to cross country running and just started being able to run without the stress of a soccer ball or a basketball, I just found so much enjoyment from that, and never looked back. And then, of course, the team aspect of cross country and the friends that I made in the sport pretty much immediately.
Right.
Yeah.
It's cool because I know you as what you are now. I mean, you're incredibly fast. Were you always at the front of the pack, through high school, through college and stuff like that? Or was it a long process for you to get there?
I was winning races from the beginning, I would say. And then, like most high school runners, I had some years where I did better, and then some years where I plateaued and maybe wasn't running as fast. But I was always definitely up in the top 10 in a conference or a region or at the state meet. I won the state meet my sophomore year, and then definitely had some of the typical ups and downs of a high school running career where I put a lot of pressure on myself, but also, just like being a kid and growing up, you're going to inevitably have some ups and downs. And at the time, I didn't really know that was normal.
Right.
But now, of course, I do. And also, I'm very thankful for those ups and downs and those plateaus. So, but yeah, for the most part, I've always been pretty consistently a strong runner.
It's an interesting conversation as well to see road athletes or athletes that specialize in fast, short distances and stuff like that transition into trails. You've been running trails for years now. I know that you ran with the U.S. team and all sorts of things in big high stakes races and stuff like that. Had you always been running trails, or like even in training during your fast road days, or was the trails something that you found at some point in your running career?
I love that question, because actually growing up, I grew up more or less on the outskirts of a town. It wasn't full on out in the country, but we were definitely out of town, and we didn't really have direct neighbors. And so we had a lot of forest around our home. And my stepdad was really into mowing these trails through the woods behind our house. And that's what I would run on. And at the time, I didn't think of it as trail running. It was just, I'm going out for a run. And I don't think that I even realized there was a difference between trail running and road running until maybe even late college or after college, because I just, I sort of ran on what was ever available to me at the time. But it wasn't until after college when I really started seeking out opportunities to go to the mountains, and then also seeking out ways of getting deeper into the mountains and new ways of exploring the mountains, that I really became aware of this entire community of people who do that day in, day out, weekend in, weekend out. So that was kind of when I really discovered the sport of trail running, and then eventually through that, ultra running.
And did you grow up in the Northwest, or did you transition here later in life?
I grew up in Minnesota and moved out to Washington State almost 4 years ago.
Oh, okay. So you're fairly new to the Pacific Northwest. Yeah. That's cool, but you still grew up. It sounds like you still grew up with nature in the backyard. Minnesota definitely has beautiful, beautiful terrain. Before we continue to move on, of course, we have live questions, live audience. So, Kim, what do we got?
We have a ton of Bandera questions, so we'll hold off on those for a couple minutes here. We are almost there.
I can't wait to talk about that.
There is a question about training. The Gumby Chronicles asks, Ladia, when you plan your training, are you the analytical type or more intuitive? And I'll dovetail on that and ask, do you have a coach, or do you plan all your own training yourself?
Great question. I do not have a coach, and I'm very intuitive, very much by feel, day by day, fairly whimsical, I guess, when it comes to deciding what I'm going to do from day to day.
I love that adjective. whimsical about it. So is it is a day-to-day sort of vibe, whatever your body's essentially
Yeah.
telling you.
Yeah.
What a great way to look at it. Just the use of the word whimsical, I think, is great. Sorry, Kim, keep going.
Yeah, and there's another question from Tanya in the chat room. Tanya was asking, how many races do you do each year? Like, do you set a goal number of races to compete in every year?
I'm also fairly intuitive about that as well. Maybe even whimsical. I don't really plan. Well, I've had to start planning more in advance with how popular trail races have gotten, and you really have to sign up right when registration opens. If I had it my way, I would wait until probably a couple weeks before most races to sign up. But I don't really set a planned number of races. I I guess I'm more driven by where I'm excited to go and where I'm excited to explore and maybe what challenge I'm excited to explore. So last year, for example, I had I did my first 50K in 2017, and I knew I wanted to do some more in 2018. But I also wanted to make sure I got some variety in my 50Ks. So I intentionally sought out a really runnable, notoriously fast one, which was way too cool, 50K.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
And then I also sought out a notoriously birdy, rugged, hard one called Speed Goat, which is up in the Wasatch Mountains outside of Salt Lake City with over 12,000 feet of gain, tops out at 11,000 feet. And then I also ended up doing a sky race, the Broken Arrow 52K. So I really wanted some variety, but it wasn't necessarily about the number of races I was doing.
Just for refreshing our audience's memory in case they forgot, but she won Way Too Cool, which is a notoriously fast race. You won it in 3:44. That's 50K, by the way. You also won the Sun Mountain 50K, Broken Arrow Sky Race 52K, fourth place there, and the Speed Goat 50K, which you referenced, is third place. And Speed Goat is one of those races that is the complete opposite of Way Too Cool in that you have altitude, it is rugged, it's chaos on the mountainside. Carl Meltzer's famous race in Utah. So that's amazing that this all occurred just last year. So that's kind of your first foray into ultra running. Chuckanut being your first 50K, which you also won, is amazing. So Bandera, what made you decide to double up a 50K in this scenario, especially so early on in 2019?
Where to start with that one? Well, we'll start with Western States 2017. My first opportunity to experience that event in person. My good friend Caitlin Gerben, who you mentioned earlier, who's a Pacific Northwest amazing all-star in every single kind of mountain adventure event that you can conceive of. So Caitlin was running her first Western States in 2017 and asked me if I wanted to be one of her pacers. And so I had the great privilege of pacing her for the last 20 miles of that race and was just completely blown away by the event from start to finish, from Friday morning, the day before the race, all the way through Sunday afternoon when the last finishers are coming through and they're handing out those precious belt buckles. I was just probably full body chills the entire time, but especially those 20 miles that I shared with Caitlin. And I just was, it was a life-changing experience to be a part of that day with her, and then also just with everybody that was there. But even at that time, I couldn't imagine myself covering 100 miles in one continuous effort. So I was nowhere near close to wanting to do that myself, but was really excited for Caitlin's progression and to see, what she'd do over the next year. And so then fast forward to Western States 2018, Caitlin returns. She had been fourth in 2017. So she, got the automatic bib for the next year. And, I think we all knew that Caitlin was even fitter, stronger, faster, and even feistier than she was the year before and ready to even improve upon her fourth place finish. So last year, 2018, Caitlin ended up again blowing everyone out of the water and finishing second behind Courtney DeWalter. And it was, again, just an incredible day, an incredible experience. And that 2018 race, I think it really showed me just how powerful that event can be for everyone involved, not just the person running. And I just sort of felt deep in my bones that I wanted to share or really pay forward that experience with other people that Caitlin had given me. And so I kind of told myself, you know, if you can figure out a way to get to Western States in 2019, I think that would be a really cool thing. And so that's when I kind of started looking at, okay, well, what would I have to do to get there? And at that point, I was sort of running out of time just with my summer schedule to do a race where you can qualify to get into the lottery. So then I sort of started looking into the golden ticket races, and that's when Bandera caught my eye, which actually it had caught my eye a couple of years earlier because it has been the USATF championship in years prior. And I'd always thought it would be fun to do a trail race in Texas. So, and with the plan of doing TNF 50 mile, I thought that it would be a decent progression to do a 50 mile in the fall and then a 100K in early winter.
Right.
So I wasn't just doubling my race distance cold turkey, but then of course, TNF didn't happen. And so it did end up that I was doubling my race distance. But I had some good longer runs in between that time. So it ended up working out all right.
It seems like it's a big bite to chew, right? So at that point, TNF being canceled, having only run a 50K, you have a 100K distance. Did you have that fear or anxiety going into it, or the doubt of like, what's it like to reach 40 miles or 50 miles and then have another 12 to run? Like, did you have that sort of mental block that normal humans have?
Yes, very much so. Yeah. Thankfully, so also somewhat serendipitously, my husband and I finally took our belated honeymoon over December, and we went to New Zealand, and we had planned on doing a lot of trail running while we were there. So we had the opportunity to do some much longer runs than I think I would have done otherwise had I still been here in the Pacific Northwest and working and all those other things. So I at least got a few confidence boosts while I was in New Zealand that, okay, I can run this 37-mile loop. And yeah, I'm tired at the end, but it went better than I maybe expected. And I think it showed me that I am capable of stretching my limit in terms of mileage and time on feet. So I did the best that I could to stay positive and focus on those things because, yeah, I was really worried about doubling my race distance. I had no idea what my body would do with those extra 20 miles.
Right. And to now think that you'll be not doubling it again, but certainly going another 40 miles. It's going to be quite interesting. Before I start getting into what it was like to also have the race change last minute due to a course reroute and stuff, or an entirely
we have
new course.
questions on that also.
Yeah, so let's get to some of these live audience questions. Go ahead, Kim.
Yeah, a question from Kim in the chat room. Kim asked, Ladia, toughest and favorite aspects of the Bandera 100K course?
Favorite aspects? Definitely the first 20 miles when we had this power pack of women, and I'm stealing Kat Drew's what she called it. It was this pack of 7 women, including myself, Brittany, Casey, Addie Bracey, Sarah Burke, Ann Wheatley, and Kat Drew. And I mean, we were together and like actually together for 20 entire miles. It was so much fun. It was just awesome. And, you know, that's always what I'm looking forward to when I go to races. And so to have that happen, and especially in a distance that was new to me, just was super exciting. And I think it really set the tone for the rest of the day, just the camaraderie and the excitement around that. And so that was for sure a highlight. in addition to then sharing the next 30 miles with Brittany and eventually her pacer Cody and her coach Paul, who was just so awesome. I mean, just like getting to share those miles with them was really, really incredible. And then the toughest moment was the last 5 miles, after which I had violently puked basically everything out of what I thought was my entire body by then. I had like about 4 different episodes of violent vomiting, and I was really running low on energy, and yeah, at that point. So that was pretty rough.
Oh, God. That usually always comes up in conversation at some point when we talk to our guests is what was the low point. I have a feeling I know what the low point is now.
Yeah.
Or at least what it involved. Sorry, Kim, go ahead.
Next question?
Yeah.
I think you kind of just answered this. Maybe there's something else. There's a question from Steven in the chat room. Steven says, I also ran the Bandera 100k. I rolled both ankles and wiped out twice. So many rocks. Steven wants to know, did Ladia have any misadventures on the course?
First, Steven, I'm really sorry to hear that, and I hope that you're doing all right now. Because, yeah, it was very rocky, and there were a lot of wipeouts. There were a lot of bloody knees out there. Thankfully, I did not have any bad wipeouts. Really just the vomiting. Yeah.
Let's go ahead and let's get into this. So you know that the course is different. When did you find out? So when did they let everyone know that the race is now? Imagine what you had already put it in your mind. It's going to be completely different because they had to move the race. When did you find out?
Well, the race director, Chris, is awesome, and his whole family, really, really great people. And he let us know as soon as he found out, which was basically they had gone out to start marking the course, I believe, on Monday. And the park officials told them that they were pulling the permit. So talk about a stressful, I mean, my heart went out to him. I felt really bad for him. But they were super resilient, really adaptable, and they just like switched it to Camp Eagle. So they sent out an email letting us know that, and that further details were to follow within the next 24 hours. And I kept like checking my email the next couple of days, and I was like, oh, it's weird that I haven't heard anything. But I mean, I'm sure it's all fine. Like, we'll get there. We'll figure out the course. So for some reason, and it's probably just my inbox, I don't know what's up with it, but I didn't get the subsequent 2 emails that he sent that detailed the new course and aid station information. So I didn't actually end up seeing any of that at all. Thankfully, when we were at the start line, one of our good friends, Rachel Drake, was there supporting her fiance, Tyler, who won the men's race. So she was able to chat with Adam, my husband, and help him figure out where to go for the aid station.
Okay.
But I did not know anything about the course, which I actually think I'm glad that I didn't. Because had I known the space within which we were running the whole day, like how close we were to the start-finish area at any given point, I don't know, maybe that would have mentally been a little challenging. Instead, I just had no idea where we were and just was along for the ride. So
there's definitely something to be said about that is not knowing in advance how rough it's going to get or where the big climbs are, and kind of the naivety of it is sometimes beneficial. Kim, did you have something?
I did. Yes.
Yeah.
Why, yes, I did, Ethan.
She was looking at me like I got something.
Oh, there's just a comment question from Deb in the chat room. Deb says, the course looks super confusing. Was it while you were running it? And just by looking at kind of the outline of the course, it was kind of like, people going to get lost? Is this confusing? So how was your experience while you're actually in the race?
The course was one of the best marked courses I've ever run. There was There was never a time when we didn't know where we were going. It was, again, so impressive, especially considering the short notice with which they had to work with to recreate this entire, like 100K. It was, I mean, I'm just so impressed, and kudos to Chris and his team because they really did an incredible job. So no, it was not confusing at all for the runners. And that's why I say I actually think it was better that I didn't see the course map because looking at it, it's kind of intimidating almost. but once you're out there, it just feels natural. You're just following the arrows and the flagging, and yeah, so it worked out really well.
So this being the first time you've run the 100K distance, we obviously know that it eventually led to puking, but what were some of the hurdles that you had to overcome during the race, and how did you do that?
Yeah. Well, I feel really fortunate because the entire race experience, I mean, even including the vomiting, was just so positive and really surpassed my expectations. I really thought that my legs and my body were going to be the limiting factor in traversing 100 kilometers in one go. But instead, it was my stomach, which I know is pretty common, and that's the biggest barrier for a lot of people. But I was really pleasantly surprised how good my legs felt the whole day. I mean, even when I had no energy left and was puking my guts out, my legs still felt good. And then I attribute a lot of that to the fact that I just felt so supported by these other women in the race, and of course the guys too, but it was more the women that I felt like I was really connecting with, and we were really working together. So even if there would have been these little hurdles, I don't even think that they registered, because there was just so much positivity and it was just so much fun. So really the vomiting was the lowest point for me.
Like I am anti-vomit. I've talked about it on this show many, many times, and so when you hear someone talk about it and that it obviously was the lowest part of the race, it's like I can only imagine that the vomiting is caused by another thing, which is caused by another thing, and I know that whenever I've come close to that, putting yourself out there on the course to the point where you are about to fall apart, that it makes me pull back. It makes me like go back into my safety zone. So to know obviously that even though you had already passed that threshold and were vomiting, but you were still running hard, like leaning into that is something. It's really interesting. It is a bit inspiring to know that there are people who are able to lean into that and continue to push their body, to push their mind, and get through it. And not only get through it, but finish second. I do want to take a second to go ahead.
I just want to say you can too, actually, Ethan. You can. And I want to make sure that I give credit to my husband, because so at this point he was allowed to run with me. And I mean, I was really struggling because in my head I was thinking like, okay, this is now a race against the bonk clock. Like, how long can I go without eating and without being able to digest anything?
Yep.
And by that point, I had probably already been moving for over 2 hours without being able to get anything in. And I had lost everything that I had stored up the first half of the race. And I felt myself shutting down, and I mean, there were moments I was walking, there were moments I was like basically sitting down. And my husband said to me, he said, your brain is trying to tell your body to shut down to protect itself. And you can decide whether you want it to do that or not. And I mean, he knew that this wasn't like a dire situation. And so I kind of started to visualize like my executive functioning, like the top part of my brain, like talking to the bottom part of my brain and just saying like, you don't have to shut down right now. Like, you don't have to go into preservation mode. I know that we have 3 more miles to cover. Right. So we can do this together. And so I think that's something that we're all capable of.
It's taken me years to, I've talked about like throwing up just in general is like, some people are afraid of snakes. Some people are afraid of spiders. Like, that's my thing is puking.
So and you married a pro puker.
And I married a professional puker. I've talked about it like 1,000. Well, no, I've talked about it probably 241 times on this show, to be totally honest. But, part of the reason I even started doing ultras and then going further in the ultra distance was to push beyond what I thought was possible and to continue to push both my mind, my body to places that made me uncomfortable. Like, that was the whole point for me. So that's why I continue to do it. It's because you can tap into these places you didn't know you had. You can get up to that line. You can push a little bit beyond the line. Sometimes you can push far beyond that line, and you can still come out the other end. So for me, it's still, even though I've been doing it for 7 years, which isn't a long time compared to a lot of people who've been doing it for decades, but it's still an adventure every time I toe the line of a race in that respect. So to know that this was your first 100K, and it obviously things weren't 100%. We get guests on the show that often talk about like, oh yeah, I just felt great the whole time. Like I won and I felt great. And it's kind of like, did you? Because if you did, did you push hard enough, or like? But to know that you put yourself out there, your body fought back, but your mind fought stronger. It's cool. I think you earned that spot at Western States, or you earned that golden ticket. That's why I'm really excited to see what you do there. I wanted to take a moment to also recognize Brittany Peterson, who won Bandera 100K. She's obviously a badass speedster. Did you and her jockey for the lead pretty much the whole race, or was it one of those things where you were working with each other for a long time and then it just so happens she felt better at a certain moment and she was able to push? Or how did that work out between you two?
Yeah, it was very much the latter. Just really working together the whole way. And especially having Cody, her pacer, there, and Adam, it just was like, it was kind of like we were out for a fun run. I mean, as time went on, Brittany and I were starting to get more and more tired, so it wasn't so much just a casual run anymore. But I think just being in each other's company at least helped me a ton. And yeah, it's just kind of like you fall into this synergy, right? And it's not about beating someone. It's not about like hoping something happens to them and that they fall back. It's just like, it's so much easier when you're working together and then propelling each other forward, because inevitably I'm going to have a good moment maybe when she's having a hard moment, and I'm going to propel her forward, and then vice versa. So that's really kind of the synergy that we were feeling. And yeah, I mean, Brittany is so strong. It was such an honor just to even be running with her.
Right.
And she had an incredible year in her sky racing.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, I would call this her debut 100K as well. She has done a 100-mile race, but it was many years ago, kind of before she really got serious about this. So I would say, I mean, she blew her 100K debut out of the water, and I'm so excited to see her at Western States and to see the rest of her year. And she has such a great support crew, like Paul and Cody. I mean, just so positive. So supportive. And they really took Adam and I under their wing the whole day, which they didn't have to do that. But they wanted to. And, Paul was rooting for me with the same enthusiasm. So that was super cool. And I just have so much respect for them. And I really appreciate what a fun day they gave us. Yeah.
That's awesome. It's also a testament to the community. I mean, you're obviously very supportive of her. Her and her crew is supportive of everyone else as well. And that's, States is going to be amazing this year. I know that you're going to be there. Caitlin's going to be there. Brittany's going to be there. There's going to be a huge array of both female and male competitors this year. What are you feeling now? So you finished your 100K. You finished second place. You crushed it. You're going into one of the most competitive 100-milers that they say exists on Earth. Is this something that you are extremely excited about because you know it? You've paced there. You're familiar with the atmosphere of it, or are you nervous, or what's going on in the mind?
Yeah, I'm really excited. I'm really excited it feels like such an honor just to be able to be a part of the energy of States, whether it's as crew, pacer, a spectator, and now as a runner. That feels very surreal. It doesn't seem real that I will be towing that start line with all these women that I just love to watch and love to cheer for, and have just been amazed by every time they step out on the trail. So I'm super excited about that. And I mean, I don't know. I feel like exactly what you were saying earlier, Ethan, about the reason that you do ultra running in the first place, to really kind of explore that limit and to feel yourself kind of giving into the exhaustion, but then also overcoming the exhaustion and getting through those low points. I feel like having done that at Bandera just gave me new perspective about what's possible. So I don't really feel as afraid of the distance anymore. Yeah, I'm excited to bring some friends along with me. Hopefully I can bring some people to Western states who haven't been there before so that they can catch the bug just like I caught it when Caitlin brought me along. So yeah.
That's another interesting question, little dovetail. I got a drink, but I'll do it after I ask the question. You and Caitlin, who you've paced Caitlin for the last couple of years, and you know her, you train with her. You're both incredible athletes. Is it going to be competitive, or is it going to be friends till the end, or like I have my
friends
scenario
to the end, and then they're not friends anymore after.
Right, they're going to get to the track, and it's like we're not friends. I have my scenario playing out. Like I know how it's going to play out in my head, but who knows what's really going to happen. But have you and Caitlin talked, and do you have a plan, or what do you think it's going to play out between you two, since you train and you know each other so well?
Yeah, that's a super fair question. We haven't talked specifically about how we would approach the race. But we've definitely, we're both super excited to train together. We're super excited. I'm super excited to race with her if I can keep up at any point. I'm not under any delusions that I can. So, yeah, I want nothing but the best for Caitlin, and I have my own, I know what Caitlin is capable of, just like you guys do. And I don't think it's my place to say it right here, but I know what can happen when Caitlin gets out there. And I see that as completely separate from what my day might be like. I'm super pumped for her, and I'm really pumped for her year in general. She's doing Trans Gran Canaria, Madeira, Western States, UTMB, and she's ready for, to take on the world. So I'm super pumped for her in this year, and I'm really excited that I get a chance to be out there as well.
We're very excited for you. When we saw that you got second and that you were going to States, it was kind of one of those, hell yeah. It was it's nice to have the local Northwesterners showcase what we're capable of. You basically now represent all of us. Just Kim and I specifically, since we'll never be able to win anything. No, you will be able to.
Before you go there, can you please, I want to congratulate you on your races at the Bridal Trails Winter Trail Running Festival.
Yeah.
Because you guys had great runs there, and I could tell that you had a lot of fun, which was so awesome to see.
It was so fun.
I would love if you guys could tell us a little bit more about how the race went for you guys. And
this is why I love Ladia. She's not afraid to.
Maybe this should be we should do this as a new segment. Our guest asked us something.
Yeah, sorry.
No, that's great.
We need some graphics.
We need graphics. We're gonna have some new segments. I had a great time. I didn't know that this race had actually been around for a long time.
Yeah, we were talking with Kathleen Egan, who a lot of locals probably know who she is, and she was saying that I think she said 20 years or something.
Yeah, close to 20 years or something.
That it's been around.
It's like a local classic in a bunch of different distances, 5, 10. New this year was the 15 miler, which we both did. And then there was the 50K relay, which people go all out for. Like that was the surprise, was this relay. People get teams together of anywhere from 2 to 6 people, and you can dress in costumes or you do it up. And the race starts at 3 p.m. So it takes place primarily at night, which is really cool.
Also because we're not morning people.
Yeah.
So a 3 p.m. start is
was awesome.
We'll be there.
Yeah, the race was great. Appreciate you asking. It was one of those races that it was our first race of the year and solidified just our love of the trails and love of the local community. And
it's one of our goals is to jump into last minute short local stuff, shorter local stuff. 15 miles isn't short, but it was kind of fun to run hard for a shorter distance, which isn't something we do often. It was exhausting.
Ultra runners, I think ultra runners are learning to give the short distances the credit they're due. It's like the shorter you run in a race environment, the harder you actually end up running, and it hurts more. It hurts more. It just does. So yeah, we both got our asses kicked by kicking our own asses.
Yeah, but it was so much fun. Yeah,
super fun. Have you run that one before?
I haven't, no, but I love those trails. Yeah, I would love to make that on next year.
I ran cross country there in high school because I couldn't make the soccer team, and I didn't like when we were going back there. I was like, I don't really remember these trails. I remember running cross country there, and then while you're running the loop, it's like a 5.2 mile loop. Those little climbs, you're like, oh yeah, I know, I remember these. These kicked my ass in high school.
What a fun place to run cross country.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
A lot of very rich kids there. So
yeah, all right, that's
I was like,
true. Yeah.
You guys all have nice houses. I don't have anything. Before we go, let's get to maybe one or two more live questions while we have the live audience. You have anything there pulled aside?
Yeah.
You can also save them for the post show.
I might save some of these because I think you're gonna ask that.
Yes.
And one of my questions that I've gotten asked a couple times is
Perfect.
that.
So we'll save the live questions for our after show that we do after all of our main shows. If you are a Patreon supporter, we'll see you guys obviously in the after show. But Ladia, since this is the first time that you've been on Ginger Runner Live, and certainly not the last, because obviously you're just getting started, because this is your first time, we have a little thing here on the show called the Quickie Question Quiz. It's a series of rapid-fire questions that we'll just rip through. You can answer with the first thing that comes to mind. It's very easy. You let me know when you're ready with the big old thumbs up, and we'll get started. Nice. What was your very first race?
Ever. 7th grade. A cross-country race, actually. Yeah.
Favorite place to run currently?
Oh, anywhere with my husband. I'm going to be totally corny.
Oh. That's my answer.
No, I was
going to
say, that is not Kim's answer. Road or trails?
Trails.
Bucket list race?
Western states.
Favorite running movie?
Oh, man. All of them.
That's correct.
That is a correct answer. We'll give it to you.
That was my quick answer, so that's my answer.
We'll take it. Guilty pleasure TV show?
When my husband is late coming home, I tend to start watching YouTube videos of little kids singing like on The Voice. I just am so amazed by kids that can sing well. It makes me really happy to see that.
Side note, does it ever creep you out that sometimes they're like a little too good? Because sometimes you'll watch those kids sing and you're like, that shouldn't be legal. Like something's going on there. That's a 32-year-old and an 8-year-old body.
Yeah.
Okay, back to it. Favorite pre-race meal, or what did you have the night before Bandera?
I will eat whatever is available. I'm not a good planner, and I'm not. I kind of tend to procrastinate things, so that usually means I have to just go with the flow and eat what I can find. So actually, we stopped at a Panera on our way to the camp, and I ate this really bad, like, I don't even know what it was. It was supposed to be like quinoa and chicken, and there was like some broth, but it was not good. So I wouldn't recommend that. There was way too much kale. There was a lot of kale in there too, which I try to avoid a lot of vegetables before like a long run. So
what was the first thing that you indulged in after the race, your post-race indulgence?
Oh, well, I was kind of in rough shape, so I actually chugged like 3 styrofoam cups of ramen, just like broth. And
classic go-to.
That was delicious, yeah.
And finally, what are your current running kicks? What are you running in?
Well, I like to really switch things up kind of constantly. I ran Bandera in the Hoka Challengers, which those are probably the most consistent shoe that I wear. But, I rotate those with the Montrail, with some Nikes. Yeah, I like to have variety.
You just passed the test. Congratulations, Ladia. You passed the Quickie Question Quiz. Told you it was very easy. Very.
Was I the most long-winded, quick answer?
No.
Okay.
I'm like, we could go back a bunch of episodes. Trust me. Okay. Much longer and far more boring. Let's be honest.
I will say the favorite running movie question I feel like that always stumps people. In my mind, I'm always like, say cool running, say cool running.
Oh, that's a great one.
Because it's like, has the word running.
It does. Like the first 20 minutes, the first act is essentially Jamaican running.
Confession, my problem is my memory is so bad.
Yeah.
Like I usually can only remember the last movie I saw. So
there was something that I can't do songs. So I love music. I love it. And I listen to music and sometimes I sing along with music. But if someone were to go, what's your favorite song? I'd be like, I don't know names to songs. Who's your favorite artist? I barely know artists. What's your favorite lyric? I don't know words. Like I'm the same way with music. I wouldn't be able to name anything. Ladia, it is such a pleasure to have you on the show. I'm so glad to have you on and to talk about Bandera. Huge congratulations to you on absolutely crushing it. Can't wait to see you in Squaw. It's going to be awesome.
Thanks so much for having me. This was so much fun.
And for everyone who's watching live, Ladia, where can they find you on social media? Where can they follow you, ask more questions and stuff like that?
Yeah, I'm on Instagram. I'm also on Twitter, but I also have been kind of taking apps on and off my phone, so I'm not always super quick to respond. But I love hearing from people. But probably Instagram is probably the best place to connect with me.
Awesome. That is it for tonight's Ginger Runner Live, episode number 242. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in live tonight, joining us, asking questions of Ladia. It's awesome to finally be back. We're excited to get this content machine rolling again. If you would like to support us on Patreon, you can do so at patreon.com/thegingerrunner. For as little as $1 a month, you basically get access to all of our behind-the-scenes stuff, including the after show, which we're going to do here in just a couple of seconds. Every Monday after our main show, we do an after show with our guest where we get to ask those questions that didn't get asked during the main show. If you have residual questions, stuff like that. So for as little as $1 a month, you get access to all the past after shows, current and future after shows. So consider that if you have not already. I think that's pretty much it.
I think
right?
That's it.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. Get out there, train hard, race harder, and part of the hardest. I know I am. We'll see you guys next week. Bye.
Ginger